How's it going, aliens? My name is iALiEN. Today I'm back on another Identity 5 video, and today's video is my updated Hunter tier list for Season 9. My last Hunter tier list was in Season 7, so it's definitely in need of a refresh. Let's get right into the video. Okay, before I get into the tier list, let me first plug my Discord server and then explain how the tier list works. So first, my Discord server link will be in the pinned comment below, as well as in the description below, so go click the link and join the server today. Okay, so let's get into the rules of the tier list. C tier is the worst tier, S tier is the best tier. I will have the tier list picture up, should be at the end, but I'll have the tier list picture up. And from left to right is best to worst. So the leftmost hunter in that tier is the best one in that tier, and the rightmost hunter in that tier is the worst one in that tier. And I'll also go through my tier list saying which one's better, gradually going up to the best hunter. So both ways you'll be able to see the specific tiers of the hunter and which ones are the best in each tier. There are 5 tiers this time. Now that there's a lot more hunters, I need more than just S, A, B, and C, and D. And now the tiers are C tier, B plus tier, A tier, and S tier. For my survivor tier list, I will be doing something similar, but it'll be with A plus and A minus tier instead of B and B plus. Okay, let's start with C tier. The worst hunter in the game right now is no longer the hunter I've been saying forever, the hunter that's always been the worst. It is now Ember. Poor Leo. He is now the worst hunter in the game at C tier. His chase is just non-existent. So basically, early game against good survivors, you will not be able to kill anyone. And that is why he's bad in a nutshell. His camping is actually really strong. One of the best campers in the game. But the issue is, you get Cypher Rushed and you get kited. So you, against good players, you won't get a chance to even do your camping. And if you do, it will be when the Cypher's already primed. So it really doesn't matter, because they'll pop the Cypher and borrow time will happen anyway. So Leo, he's got him buffs over the time, but he's the default hunter for a reason. He's pretty bad. 0 chase, small hitbox, and he is currently the worst hunter in the game. Let's go to the next hunter in C tier, and it is Evil Reptilian. Lizard is better than Ember, but he gets Cypher Rushed very hard, and he can also get kited pretty hard. His chase is okay, and his camping is okay. So there's nothing about Lizard that makes him great. Like, even Ember has amazing camping, but his chase is just bad. Lizard has good camping, but not, OP camping. And his chase, he has decent chase. Really depends on who you're chasing. You're gonna have trouble against, of course, a perfumer, a really good kiter. But if you're on someone like Mac, you can get the down pretty quickly. If you're using Insolence plus Blink, that should help you get the down. But his chase is just okay. Lizard does have a relatively high skill cap to use. He's pretty hard to use, and that's why I do think he deserves a buff. He's a not toxic hunter to face, has a high skill cap to using, but it just doesn't reward you for mastering him. And I think that should be changed, and he should get a pretty good sized buff to put him at least at B plus tier, if not A tier in the future. But all we can do is hope and wait. For now, Evil Reptilian is C tier. Next is B tier. These hunters are viable um they're viable against decent survivors. But once you face the best survivors, once you face great survivors, is when they are no longer viable. But against decent survivors, to of course worse than that, they are viable and they're good. And to start off, B tier is Wu Chang. Wu Chang is B tier because of his early game. His chase early game is not strong enough to secure a down within 60 seconds within before 3 ciphers pop. And that's his issue. He has amazing mobility, pretty solid camping, and good utility, being able to stop survivors from uh, interacting and stunning survivors for a period is all good. And his in game is very good, and his late game, once he's fully at max presence, he is a pretty good hunter. But the issue with him is it's too difficult to get there. Against good survivors, you will simply just get kited too much. Also, Perfumer will hard counter him, and the meta right now is double rescue Perfumer mech. So unless you find the mechanic, then you're not going to win if the Perfumer is good, because she hard counters Wu Chang's teleport. He just has a hard time beating meta team comps right now, and that's why he's in B tier. But against other team comps that have worse survivors and the skill level of those survivors are worse, you can definitely win with Wu Chang and can definitely be a strong hunter then. He's by no means a bad hunter. He just definitely needs some tweaks to make him viable in top tiers, and that's why he is getting buffed pretty soon. He's the next hunter with the planned buff. Next in B tier is Geisha. She has fallen from S tier to A tier to now B tier, and she's been B tier for months now. Geisha, her issue is her chase. She's never been good at camping. She still isn't. She has some of the worst camping in the game. Her mobility isn't that great. But what Geisha always hung her hat on was her chase. That's what made Geisha such a good hunter when she first came out, was that survivors did not know how to kite her. Once survivors learned how to kite her by skill checking her and knowing which walls she can teleport to and knowing how to stop her camera angles, once servs mastered kiting her like that, she became a much worse hunter. Also, there are so many counters to Geisha nowadays, it made her a lot worse. From Enchantress to Prospector to Perfumer to more. There are just too many counters for Geisha. And even if you don't play a counter to Geisha, if you are good at just kiting a Geisha, good at skill checking, good at knowing how to stop her dashes, you are going to kite her. She is one of the only hunters that chase depends on the survivor's skill level. So her built-in ability to chase has a built-in counter in the game. So obviously that won't work out well for you. So Geisha, I don't know if she can really get a buff, because low tiers will have a very difficult time kiting Geisha and will think she's broken, because before you know how to kite her and skill check her, she seems OP. But once you actually learn and master that, then you realize how weak she really is. So they're just in a very difficult position with Geisha on how to actually buff her without making her too OP for lower tier players. Last in B tier is Axeboy. Axeboy is a pretty decent hunter, and he hangs his hat on his camping. His camping is the best part of Axeboy, and he also has some pretty decent chase. Axeboy's biggest weakness is his chase. It's really what makes or breaks most hunters in this game is how good their chase is, how quick they can down a survivor. The problem with Axe Boy is that he works like Ripper, but he depends on RNG, and that's what hurts him. RNG as in randomness. If the fireball from the tree is in a good spot, then you can, as long as you hit it, there you go, you have a hit. But if the spawn of the fireball is in a bad spot, then you don't have a hit. And that really needs to be changed for Axeboard to make him a viable hunter. Because when you're playing a hunter that completely depends on luck for a lot of it, on whether you get good spawns for the fireballs or not, that's just a recipe for disaster. He is a decent hunter because when you do get the right spawns, when you do find survivors in good spots for Axe War, he can definitely down them quick, and he can also snowball a game very easily because of how good his camping is. He can make or break games by his camping, especially if he can double hit the merc, and then on the next rescue he can down whoever comes next. The biggest counter to Axeboard is simply transitional kiting. He has to set up his tree, and if you're using peepers, you have to set that up too. But all of that goes to waste as soon as a survivor just vaults a window or a pallet, takes the boost, and goes to a different kiting spot, and then your tree, your peeper just goes to waste. And as long as they keep transitioning their kiting spot, you will have a very difficult time killing them with Axeboard. He is also planned to get a buff pretty soon. The buff I would personally like for him is one of two things. Either make his fireballs a lot less random and luck based, or make the trees work as peepers too. I would love if he could have trees that were peepers, because his whole skill is based around hitting people through walls, but you can't even see them unless you use an external trait. It would be a lot better if his trees were peepers already, and then you could use blink plus have trees that are peepers, and that would just make him a very good hunter a lot better. So that's what I hope they do. But he is getting some type of a buff pretty soon. Next tier is B plus tier. I had to separate these hunters because I feel like there's a big enough distinction between these hunters to B tier hunters without putting them in a whole different tier, but they are definitely better than the hunters I just named. At the bottom of B plus tier is photographer. And B plus tier hunters are hunters that are viable against top survivors. Like, you can play these hunters against the best survivors, and every once in a while you'll actually be able to beat them, and you'll be able to tie them pretty consistently. So these hunters are viable against top tier survivors, as the B tier hunters were not viable. So that's the biggest distinction from B plus to B tier. So at the bottom of B plus tier is photographer. Photographer started at S tier, moved to A, and is now at B plus tier. He has taken a pretty big jump down because survivors have learned how to counter him. They know how to counter his 1.5 attack damage and how to heal that up efficiently, and how to get everyone back to full health and able to make saves. And they've also learned how to decode efficiently against him. So he's built around stopping Cypher Rush, but when you face top survivors, you still get Cypher Rush for Photo. It really doesn't matter. It just gives you a little bit more time that you would have had with another hunter. But Photo is a pretty decent hunter because he does not rely on chase to get downs. So this means he doesn't need the best chase. He doesn't need a chase that will get survivors down within 3 ciphers, because if they are good, if the photographer player is knowledgeable of the spawn locations and he can find the survivors, then he can get 1, 2 survivors down, survivors injured, without ever having to chase. And if he gets a survivor injured and then finds them in the real world after he injured them in the photo, he can simply just use blink to get the down. So that way, his chase didn't even matter. He has really good attack recovery, which comes in handy when camping. His pallet breaking speed is really fast. When you do need to chase, it does the trick for killing mechanic and other lesser kiters. The pallet breaking speed helps you with that. And his hitbox is pretty decent. So all in all, he's a decent hunter. It's just that survivors have learned how to counter him more and more and learned how to cipher rush him. But the fact that he doesn't rely on chase and the fact that Photo can control his own game if you know the spawn locations is what's keeping him viable for the time being. Photo is also receiving a buff soon, but that will be after Wu Chang gets his buff and after Axeboy gets his buff. They will buff Photographer as his win rates in top tiers has been going lower and lower, so they noticed he needed a buff. Next in B plus tier is Gamekeeper. Yes, the meme of Identity 5 is finally a viable hunter, and it's so great to see that I don't have to say Gamekeeper is F tier anymore. He is B plus tier because his chase is actually pretty good. It's capable of downing a survivor within 3 ciphers, and then what makes or breaks the game for Gamekeeper is his camping. Gamekeeper is not higher on the tier list because he gets cipher rushed a lot. It's very easy to tie a Gamekeeper, even if someone gets down quickly. If you kite a Gamekeeper for longer than 3 ciphers, and then the rescue goes off accordingly, then you beat him. If you kite a Gamekeeper for less than 3 ciphers, and the rescue goes off accordingly, then you tie him. So the only way for Gamekeeper to win is on the rescue. If he downs someone before 3 ciphers and then can down the mercenary on the rescue, that's how he can win a game. Or if he gets kited longer than 3 ciphers and can down the mercenary on the rescue, he can come back to tie that game. Mechanic hits him pretty hard, because even if you down Mechanic within 3 ciphers, if she has her bot out, you can still lose that game because she's decoding while on chair. So that's a big nuisance for Gamekeeper. The way to down a mercenary on save with Gamekeeper is to have your hook out. Similar to how Clown holds his dash, you hold your hook, and then you have to Terror Shock hook the mercenary on chair. If you can Terror Shock hook the mercenary on chair, then you just click the attack button and he's down. Because that's 1.5 damage, and then you did the other 1 damage, so that's 2.5, and it goes instantly down. If you can do that, you can win with Gamekeeper, but it's pretty difficult to do, especially against experienced mercenaries that are good, very good at rescuing and timing and being patient with their save. But if you do manage to pull it off, or at least get them to save after halfway, or double hit the mercenary, that way you can also win the game. But you do really need to do a lot on your camping in order to win. Gamekeeper's best map is Moonlit. He's very, very strong there, since there are so many hook spots and it's very easy to down someone within 3 ciphers there, while on other maps it's more of a challenge. Next, lastly in B plus tier is Smiley Face. He was also S tier at one point, and now he's fallen from S to A to now B plus tier. Clown is definitely still a pretty decent hunter. The biggest issues with Clown is that two things. His chase is not as potent as before, and there are so many counters to Clown. From Enchantress to Magician to Prospector to, more. There's just Perfumer, so many counters, even Cowboy to an extent, and there's many more that I'm sure I forgot to name. But Clown just has so many counters, and stunners especially destroy Clown, that it makes it too hard to get a down within 3 ciphers. But his skill cap is very, very high for Clown. You need very good controls nowadays. If you're going to use Clown and be successful with him, you need insane controls where you can get downs against his counters and against good survivors, because with all the palettes you can use on the map and all the countering survivors that there are, the only way you're going to get it down quick enough is if you have really good controls with him. One of the best parts about Clown is his modifications, especially the slow healing modification where he can slug survivors, and that really kills the Cypher Rush. And he hard counters Mercenary, which really helps since Mercenary is the main rescuer in this meta. You can easily double hit a Mercenary on rescue with the dash and then the hit, and you hit him with the slow healing. Mercenary will be down for so long. That just kills the entire Cypher Rush and gives you so much time. If you can double hit the Mercenary, which is pretty easy, and have killed someone, got someone on rocket chair before 3 ciphers pop, you are in a position to where you can win the game if you can make sure you don't get kited long after that. So Clown is definitely a pretty good hunter because of his slow healing, hard counter to Mercenary, and his mobility is very good. Of course, you can easily change your target, so if you are facing double rescuer, you can just, if you see the Mercenary first, you move, you see the officer or the forward, you move, and then you can go to maybe the mechanic or the perfumer, someone you can down easier. So his mobility is very good for late game too. His slugging is very good, and his camping is pretty good because you can double hit with ease, and also you can hold your dash, and if you get a terror shock, then you stuff the rescuer. Next in A tier, next tier is A tier. These hunters are viable. These are the viable hunters in top tiers. They are really good hunters, and some have fallen, some have risen, but these are really good hunters that you can learn, you can master, and if you master these hunters, then you can beat any team of survivors with them. First in A tier is Guard 26. Guard 26 is probably the most underrated hunter in North America server. I know he gets a lot of use in Asia server and moderate use in China server, but he's a very, very good hunter. His chase is pretty good. It's a pretty decent chase. A good enough chase to down someone within 3 ciphers, because if you set one bomb on a 2 second timer and then you put another bomb 1.5 seconds after you did the first bomb, that second bomb will go off instantly. So this gives the survivors no counterplay because they couldn't dodge the bomb or move, and it's just an instant 0.5 damage to them. He counters Seer. He hard counters Seer, which is very good. This way you can ban Mechanic because Cypher Rush is definitely a problem with Guard 26. He has no counter to Cypher Rush. So a Mechanic ban is in your best interest, since he hard counters Seer and Mech really kills him. But where he is the best at is camping. His camping is amazing. It's very difficult to use. He's a very difficult hunter to use from his chase to his camping correctly. But once you master his camping, you will be amazing with him. His camping is very similar to Ember. It's all about pressure. You're pressuring the rescuer to save because the bombs are about to go off. So if the mercenary comes and you set the bomb and then he wants to make the save before the bomb goes off, you can hit Terror Shock when he goes, and then he goes for the save, and then the bomb will take him off the save because it's exploding now, and then you can hit him down again. This is just one example of how to stuff a mercenary, but his bombs just pressure the survivors into rescuing, and if you can master his camping, you will win a lot simply because everyone will just die at the chair. They'll all die trying to save their teammates. So with a good chase and a top camping ability, that's what makes him a very strong hunter. His biggest weakness is Cypher Rush, but with a mechanic band that alleviates it a little bit. But all in all, Guard 26 is a very good hunter, and he can even become better as hunters learn more and more tricks for him, and he becomes more and more mainstream. You can see him go higher in the tier list, and he's definitely a rising hunter right now. That's very good. Next is a hunter that's really stagnated and fallen because of the nerfs, the repeated nerfs he's gotten, and that's Mad Eyes. Mad Eyes was a very underrated hunter at first, with people thinking wasn't that good, to him actually being really S tier with the right user. But now, with the nerfs that he's gotten, all of the nerfs to his camping and how in the duration of the walls, he went from one of the best hunters in the game to now still a very good hunter, but his playstyle has changed, and which has really weakened him. He's a very difficult hunter to use correctly, but when you do use him correctly, he's definitely strong. When Mad Eyes first came out, you had the meta for him was to use walls at the start of the game, your consoles, to gradually tick damage off of the survivors, and then once you downed one, teleport to the cipher and put them on chair. Then once you got that survivor down on chair, it was a GG because his camping was so broken, and the walls lasted forever while camping, which basically, if you were able to get that down, the game was over. And on top of that, while camping, he could still stop Cypher Rush and patrol the ciphers and damage survivors while hard camping a survivor that's never getting rescued because his camping is so strong. That was what Mad Eyes was at the start. Basically a borderline S tier hunter. But now Mad Eyes is an A tier hunter because no longer can you just tick off damage of survivors and then teleport, because all survivors will just drain the consoles from you, and you will never get against good survivors 4 wall hits. Like at until you're at max presence, you aren't getting 4 wall hits on the survivor. So now you have to chase with Mad Eyes. That means you have to build fully into chase. And once you get that down with Mad Eyes, let's say you get it within 3 ciphers, then you can stop Cypher Rush while you're camping. But his camping is not as strong as before. Because his walls last much shorter now, it's easy to rescue off of him. For Mad Eyes, it's all about timing. You have to time the wall perfectly when when the mercenary comes. So if the mercenary comes and is about to rescue, if you can get that wall at the perfect timing to cut him off, that's when you can hit him, and then the wall is blocking the rescue, and then you can double hit the mercenary and also get him to save after half. Because if the wall lasts for 3 seconds and halfway is at 30 seconds, then you have to time that wall at 28 seconds for it to end at 31 seconds. So when the mercenary can make the save, it's past the 30-second halfway mark. Now this is all hypothetical. These aren't the real numbers, but I was using it as an example of how you have to camp with Mad Eyes. When before, you didn't have to worry about the timing at all because the walls just lasted so long that it wasn't about doing it, oh, this specific time when they lasted like 15 seconds. So Mad Eyes chase is just decent. He doesn't have anything to help his chase. He does have fast pallet breaking speed, but that's it. His hitbox is decent as well. If you're chasing a mechanic with the pallet breaking speed and blink, you should be able to get a down within 60 seconds, and then you can get a win or a tie. But if you're chasing someone like a perfumer, then it becomes a lot more difficult to get that down within 3 ciphers. Also, Mad Eyes is a pretty easy hunter to tie. Because you, let's say you get the down, since his camping doesn't snowball into wins, it's just if you double hit the mercenary, it really doesn't make a difference. It'll secure you the tie, but it doesn't really secure you the win because survivors will cipher rush, and by the time they go for the second rescue, the ciphers would have been done. So yes, you can tie, but you see a lot of times in the tournaments that you can watch for the last IVC, Mad Eyes didn't win. For the IVC in China and Japan, there was a Mad Eyes. They never won. All they ever did was tie or lose because it's very difficult to win against good survivors. You can tie with them, but it's difficult to win definitely in a tournament setting where survivors have VC. Next in A tier is one that's fallen from S tier to now A tier, and that is Ripper. Ripper has fallen because he's just a lot easier to kite now. He's a lot easier to counter. Survivors have learned how to counter him. Survivors have learned how to kite Ripper a lot better than they used to. Ripper used to be one of the best chase hunters, if not the best chase in the entire game. At one point, he was even getting banned. On top of how great his chase was/is, his camping was also very good because it secured a double hit on Mercenary, and it also meant that survivors like Mechanic couldn't make the save because if you foggy and hit, she gets stuffed. But now with Ripper, survivors have learned how to kite him a lot better, and he gets cipher rushed so hard. So survivors have learned how to kite, but also how to rescue off of Ripper. You see a lot of mercenaries, they aren't going to get double hit anymore. They're just going to dodge the foggy blade. First officer hard counters Ripper. You're not going to double hit a first officer because he's just going to use his illusion, and then it's just a blind shot at getting the foggy blade. So because of this, his camping has been weakened along with his kiting, his chase, and he still gets cipher rush. Ripper is still a decent hunter, a pretty good hunter, but his usage rate and win rates both have fallen. His ban rate is now 0, when at one point it was fairly high. So he's definitely fallen from S tier to A tier now. He's just not as scary as he once was. In the latest IVC in China, Ripper was only used as a hunter when the big 3 were taken. So he was a hunter that was used after the S tier hunters that I will later name, and him or Feaster was used once they couldn't choose the S tier hunters anymore. So Ripper is simply now in tournament play a replacement hunter for when you can't choose anyone else. But he at one point was a first to second round hunter. At one point he was a first round hunter. People would use him, especially in Moonlit first round abnormal trump card. Or at least for most of his time he was a second round hunter to Spider. But now he's fallen all the way to a fourth round hunter. Lastly, in A tier is Feaster. Feaster got a really big buff a couple of seasons ago, which pushed him to S tier. Recently, though, about a season ago, Feaster got nerfed. This nerf took him from S tier to A tier. Feaster has a very good chase, but his chase is also counterable. Survivors have learned how to kite Feaster pretty well because it's mainly just transitional kiting. Me personally, I don't have any issues kiting a Feaster, and when I see one, I'm not really scared of the chase. And the biggest thing about Feaster that's always been his strength since the day he was released to the buff was his camping. His camping has always been so good. But in the recent nerf, they took that away. Now, what Feaster used to be able to stuff mercenaries, make them save after half, and easily down mechanics. A mechanic could not save off of a Feaster. No way could she save off of a Feaster. To now with the nerf, anyone can save. Literally, a mechanic can just save off a Feaster. It doesn't matter because when you get hit with the tentacle now, you can instantly save. There's no delay. So before, if you got hit with the tentacle, there was a delay before you could rescue. So in that delay, the Feaster would hit you. So he would tentacle hit, delay, and then regular hit you. So someone like a mechanic could not save. Someone like a mercenary would get pushed off the chair, and the delay would take the chair to after half. Or if you tried to save before, you could terror shock. But now there is no delay. So a mechanic, she gets hit with the tentacle, she can instantly save, and then when you can spam the attack button. By the time the attack goes off, she made the save. So it doesn't matter. And they have tie turn already. That's the biggest thing that happened to Feaster, which took him from S tier to A tier, is that his camping, what once was the best in the game, is now just solid. And he really relies on Patroller now to have really good camping. If you don't have your Patroller up, or if you're using a different trait, your camping will not be really that potent with him. But he has a pretty good chase, pretty decent camping, and with Patroller, his camping is pretty good camping. With Patroller's chase is very good chase. So that's why he's a very good hunter now, and he's the best hunter not in S tier. Lastly, let's get to the best hunters in the game. These are S tier hunters. These are the three best hunters, period, that you will see. These are the hunters that can actually stand a chance against top tier survivors, the hunters that get banned, and these are the hunters that see the most usage in tournaments and also in rank. At the bottom of S tier is Soul Weaver. Soul Weaver has been S tier for the longest. Since Season 3's buff, she's been S tier, and she's been nerfed like 10 times. She's been nerfed so much. Nerfed more than any other hunter, but here she is barely surviving at S tier. She's really S minus tier now. Because of the recent nerf, which took her from a solid S tier hunter, probably second best hunter, to now the third best hunter and close to A tier, but she still is S. Soul Weaver's chase is still great. It's one of the best chases in the game. I would probably say it's the second best chase in the game to a hunter you'll see later. And her camping is pretty good as well. Her mobility is good. And really, her chase is her calling card. That's why Soul Weaver is so good, and that's why she's always been so good. It's difficult to play her. Most people think she's easy to use, but actually to use Soul Weaver effectively, it is pretty difficult. But a God Soul Weaver is near impossible to kite. She really is. And in the latest IVC, Soul Weaver was used so much. She had the highest usage rate of any hunter, and she had a pretty good win rate as well. She was used in first round, second round, third round. She was banned pretty frequently, and in rank she's used quite a lot as well, especially with the banning of the top two. So Soul Weaver is still S tier, hanging on by a thread. Very good chase, very good hunter. Next in S tier, the second best hunter. Some people would argue she's the best hunter. But personally, me maining both of these hunters being top two, I'm top one with this hunter in the server, and using them extensively. Also, the ban rates of these two hunters and the usage rate in tournament and the win rate in tournament, I have to say she is the second best hunter, and this is Dream Witch. She is not the best hunter in the game. You basically know who the best hunter in the game is now. But the second best hunter in the game, and a solid S tier hunter, is Dream Witch. She was S tier on the last tier list, and she still is. Dream Witch makes a 1v4 into a 2v4, into a 3v4, or 4v4. Dream Witch gives you map control. Her map control is the best part about Dream Witch. You can be in so many different places at once. Any hunter that can be in different places at once is going to be good. Simply that ability is just OP because you're adding another hunter into a 1v4 asymmetrical game. You're making it a 2v4 or a 3v4. Her biggest weakness is her chase. Her chase is not very good. Her hitbox is atrocious, and that's the weakness for Dream Witch. But her map control and how much she counters Cypher rushing is why she's so good. Dream Witch can be beaten by top survivors though because of her chase. You can kite her pretty well for 3 ciphers. And then if it's a really good Dream Witch that's able to stall ciphers and use abnormal at the right time, she will get the tie even if you kite her 3 ciphers. But overall, if you're good on removing the leeches and good on your ciphers, then you'll still tie against her. Dream Witch has a pretty high usage rate. She also has a pretty decent ban rate. She gets banned the second most in rank. And in tournaments, you see she gets her win rate is pretty decent. In the latest IVC, you really got to see when PPX of GR played against IMT Survivors in Leo's Memory in the finals. He did everything he could as Dream Witch. Everything. He played perfectly. But in the end, he only tied. And that's really against top survivors. I mean the best survivors with the best games and the best kiting. With against the probably the best Dream Witch in the world. You're only going to tie against them. And that's the biggest issue for Dream Witch, which is why she is not the best hunter. Because the hunter I'll name after this, she will beat those survivors. It's not about just tying. But with Dream Witch, you can beat survivors when if they make just one mistake or make 2 mistakes, you'll beat them. And if they make no mistakes, it's still at least a tie. So she's a very good hunter. Lastly is Bloody Queen. She is the best hunter in the game, period. She has the highest ban rate and the best win rates. Her usage rate in the last IVC was very high, and in KOA, it's only going to be higher and higher. She's going to be a first round pick for almost everyone, I promise you. And her recent nerf, which really didn't do anything, didn't affect her at all. Bloody Queen's chase is the best chase in the game. You are not going to kite a Bloody Queen longer than 3 ciphers. Period. If it's a good Bloody Queen, you aren't kiting her longer than 3 ciphers because she gets a free hit every 15 to 20 seconds because of her mirror. Along with that, her camping, while camping, she can patrol ciphers and stop cipher rush. This is probably the best part, or the second best part of Bloody Queen to her chase, is how well she controls cipher rush and how she can get hits on people and patrol ciphers while camping. Bloody Queen's weakness, as every hunter has a weakness, is her camping. Bloody Queen is not a good camper at all. She's not going to stuff a rescue. So you have to take advantage of this if you are going to beat her. By taking advantage of this, I mean sending the mechanic for the first rescue. Don't make the mercenary get off the cipher and make a rescue when he doesn't have to. There's a mercenary doesn't the delay damage, he won't need to use that against Bloody Queen. So why not let the mechanic go in and have 4 people decoding at once? And there's no risk. There's no risk of her dying or getting stuffed because she has 0 camping ability. And then she can even body block for the survivor she rescued. You have to take advantage of that weakness of Bloody Queen to stand a chance at beating her or tying against her. Bloody Queen is indeed a tying hunter though, because of Cypher Rush. Even though she patrols ciphers, with a mechanic on your team, you can definitely still tie against her. Wow. Bloody Queens that really mastered her and have a great game will beat you because of how well her end game is. Bloody Queen has a very underrated end game. No, it's not quite as good as Dream Wish, but it's pretty close because of her mirror and then trump card with teleport. It makes her end game so good, and the fact that she counters borrow time, because if you do a regular hit, they pop borrow time, and then you mirror, you get an instant down. So she counters borrow time. That just makes her even better. The worst Bloody Queens will still tie a match if they have trump card and claustrophobia, because even if you get kited, when the cipher pops, like I said earlier, she counters borrow time. So you hit, borrow time, mirror, and then you get them again, you pull them on chair, and because of claustrophobia and you teleport to exit gate, and you get the down, and then you tie. So the fact that even the worst Bloody Queens are the Bloody Queens that have the worst matches where you just really get outplayed will still tie, and if you have a great match, you'll win. That's just insane. She's such an incredibly strong hunter, and she is the strongest hunter in the game right now. So that's the full complete season 9 hunter tier list. I do hope you enjoyed this video, and I hope it helped you out. If you have different opinions, please leave it in the comments below. I answer all my comments pretty much, so I'll definitely see it and we can have a discussion about it. If you want to see more videos like this, or if you did enjoy this video, please give it a like. And if you want to see more videos like this in the future, please subscribe to the channel. And that'll be all for the video. Bye.